Welcome to Sinkowitz, hosted by the fearless Linda Sinkowitz. She's syncing you up with the latest in election integrity, from breaking headlines to critical updates you won't hear anywhere else. With Linda, it's facts first as she leads the fight for one vote for one legal voter. Stay informed, stay empowered. Let's jump in.
Hi, and welcome to Sinkowitz. I'm Linda Sinkowitz, the founder and CEO of Fight Voter Fraud. I want to thank everyone who's watching us on OBBM Network TV, Rumble, YouTube, and all the other social platforms that we're on. So thank you very much. Now, this week, my guest is Attorney Peter Ticktin. I am very excited about speaking to him. As many of you know, he's Tina Peters' attorney, and he's got lots of information to give us this week. The states that we're going to be talking about: Connecticut, Idaho, Michigan, North Carolina, Wisconsin. Then we'll go to our election terms, our trivia. We have our national news, our vote notes, which is the one, as all of you know, is a longer story that you're going to need to click the link to read the rest of it. We'll have international news, and again, as always, my final thoughts at the end. So let's get right to our guest this week, Attorney Peter Ticktin. Hi, Peter.
Hi, how you doing? Good to see you again.
Good. Thank you so much for coming on. You have got a lot to talk about this week. So basically, I'm just going to turn the show over to you.
Okay, well, thank you. You know, you mentioned that I represent Tina Peters, and I'm very proud that I do. Get those off. I also represent Stephanie Lampert, and Joel Altman, and numerous other people that are involved with the election process. And, you know, they are either being sued or being prosecuted. Stephanie Lampert, for instance, has two different cases against her where they're trying to have her criminally responsible for having the computers that were involved in the 2020 election examined. So I think the most important thing I can talk about is the one thing that's pivotal in America right now. We have many important issues that are in play. You know, there's people in prison that need to come out of prison. There's people that they want to put into prison that should not be going into prison. There's people that deserve to be in prison that we haven't even looked at yet. You know, people like Fauci, you know, people involved with different aspects of what happened with COVID, people dying in nursing homes, at least criminal negligence, if nothing else. Nobody's addressing these things. Instead, our Justice Department is continuing what was started to a great extent under Biden, where there's been a weaponization of people that are MAGA people. We don't have all of our U.S. attorneys appointed. We don't have so many appointments that need to be made. That, you know, there's much going on, and things are very important to get done. But there's one issue, which is a pivotal issue. And what do I say it's pivotal? I'm saying it's pivotal because we could lose it all. And when I say we, I mean the people that understand what's going on, the people that are true Americans, the people that understand that somebody stole our country in 2000. We got it back in 2004, but most people don't understand what this election fraud is all about. So let me tell you some things that I know from the cases that I'm involved in where I've seen evidence. And after the 2020 election, one county in Michigan, Antrim County, had a serious problem because it's a very red county. You know, it would be, you know, if a weak red county is called pink as opposed to red. This would be like a dark red. Okay. There's no way in the world that a Democrat would be elected there. And yet Biden won. So when they looked at what happened, it became apparent to the experts that there was a flipping of the vote. So the people in Antrim County, Michigan, the people that voted for Trump, those votes all went to Biden. And the people that voted for Biden, those votes all went to Trump. And there is a way that the vote can be flipped. It's just a matter of basically checking one box or making one click when you're in the program. And the only problem is that you have to be able to be in the program to be able to do it. The Democrats and the Dominion machine people, they're very good at saying, hey, these machines are air gapped. So there cannot be any fooling around. Nobody can get into it. Nobody can deal with it because there's no wires connected to it. It's not connected to the internet. Well, we all know that you could do it with wireless, but nevertheless, just accepting that, the fact is it's all a big lie. Because what was found in the examination of those machines after Antrim County flipped the vote, and that was examined, and there was a lawsuit that was filed, and it further into what was going on in that lawsuit. These machines were looked at by experts. And what they found on the tabulators were something called phone chips. And what you would find in your cell phone is something called phone chips. And what first responders have are phone chips that are a little bit more robust, but they have phone chips. So, basically what we now know is that these tabulators can communicate by phone because they are phones. So the fact that they're air gapped has nothing to do with it. Then
So
if we take
it's
a look,
not just
yeah,
in I was gonna say, it's not just in Michigan where this happened. This is like all over the country.
yes,
We had incidents like this. But the key thing for the Michigan one is because of the lawsuits that were filed, everything had to be retained. Just like in Georgia, we had explained to the people that usually after 22 months, the ballots, are shredded. But because of the lawsuits, they had to retain the information. And the same thing in Maricopa County, what they're doing right now. So everybody who stepped up that was basically called crazy, thank you for doing that in 2020, 2021, in saying that we saw issues. But all this stuff you're talking about has absolutely been proven. And this is just, as you said, one
yeah, there's no
red
question about it.
county. So how do
Right,
we
right. And the
prevent
phone chips
this?
are there on the motherboard.
Yep. So how do we prevent
Yeah.
this from in the future?
Well, it's not the future. It's now that we have to look at it. Okay. Because
Mhm.
now when I say pivotal, I mean we either lose America or we keep America. That's what I mean by pivotal. We win it all or we lose it all. And that has to do with the midterms. If the machines are in play and if the machines can determine the outcome of the elections, then we're in a lot of trouble. If the machines are not in play, we're fine. So why are we in trouble? We're in trouble because there's 22 Republican senators that are up for re-election. And those races can be determined by the people that are behind the machines. If they were to take out of those 22, 18, then they've got 67 senators. They're not shy. These people are corrupt and they're horrible and they're not shy. And what they will do whatever they need to do to take over our country, because to take over our country at this point is to basically take over the world, because we're the last ones that are free. I mean, right now, even the United Kingdom, they're arresting 30 to 50 people a day for what they may say on social media or on text. So you send a text to somebody that says you don't, that something bad about Islam, or you send a text to somebody that's against the interests of the government there, and the next thing you know, you've got people coming to your door taking you away. So the UK is not free anymore. Canada's not free anymore. Australia's not free anymore. There's very little left in the world where we have freedom anymore. But the
So
U.S.
with
is
I was going to
the
say,
last major bastion of it.
right. So with Trump talking about same day, in person, paper ballots, hand count, that pretty much is what we absolutely need to start, because then we can go into, all the corrupt
Well,
voter rolls and all of that. But we need hand counting. We
we
don't want the machines.
that's exactly right. We already have paper ballots. That's already done. Reduce it for one day. That's what it should be done, because we don't have COVID anymore. There's no excuse for this nonsense of having this prolonged period of election. It tends to cause corruption when we do that. But the most important one is what you're saying. Yes, hand counting in public is what it
Hmm.
is. So don't forget those words, in public, because you
In
want these
public.
under camera so anybody can ever, they can look at them all day, all night. When you look at these tabulated machines, the ones that count the vote for Dominion, the tabulators not only have phone chips in there, but they have a lot of programming that's been put into these. And the programming that was developed for Sierra, and then Smartmatic, and now Dominion. And basically, they're all the same programs. They may be in a
Hmm.
different language, but it's all the same. Started from one, and just as it, and so who made these programs in the first place? They basically commissioned for Venezuela,
Yep.
and they were done under the auspices of the Venezuelan government for uh, for these purposes. But the people that they got to do it were Serbians. So we got Serbia, which is, I don't think anybody disputes that Serbia is the most Western satellite of China. So
Hmm.
you've got Serbia actually making the programming to fix the Venezuelan elections. So the first election that was ever stolen by by these machines was in 2004. August of 2004, there was a recall election in regard to Hugo Chavez, who was extremely unpopular. And yet he was, because of the machines, he had 58% of the vote, and he stayed in office. That was the first. And by
Right. Well,
2006, it was here in America,
yeah, we
and
actually
it was
had Ana
used in.
Diaz. We had Ana Diaz from Venezuela. She was an election in 2004. We had her on the program, and she was exiled because they wanted her dead because she refused to go along with all the stuff that they were doing. So, I mean, all this stuff that we've been talking about is the exact same stuff that you're saying right now. Again, it's Venezuela, Serbia, you got China behind it, you got Russia that's involved with this, you have Cuba that's involved in this as well. And it's been going on, I believe, was it
Yeah,
2008 is the first one in the United States. I believe that the utilization
2006.
of that system, 2006. Yep, the Obama primary, Obama.
2006. Obama. Yeah,
Yep.
primaries. Yeah. So,
Wow.
I mean, it's just unbelievable that somebody could actually take over the United States of America. Venezuela was not just exporting cocaine and fentanyl; they're also exporting election results with their machines to 72 different countries, of which the United States is only one of them. How clever can these people be? And we're going to
Yeah.
be hearing from Maduro. I can give you some assurances of that's happening. This man has two choices. Okay, either keep his mouth shut and avoid any of this, and spend the rest of his life in a supermax where he's basically going to be in solitary forever, or help the United States right now. And what we're going to see from Maduro, we're going to see real evidence coming out of this thing that's going to nail a lot of people, probably Nancy Pelosi,
Hmm.
probably others. And so
Oh
we're going
yeah.
to see all of this happen. But that's down the road a little piece. Right now, we have to deal with the primaries that already started. We already had Texas, North Carolina, and Arkansas uh, that had their primaries. And we know that the fix is in already, and I can explain
Hmm.
that in a minute. But before I do, I
Yep.
want to just take what I was saying before, just one other step. What
Sure.
happens if the left are able to get involved with our system to the point where they actually have a majority in the House, and which they can easily do. I mean, these machines can easily do this.
Hmm.
So what happens if they do? What happens if they have 67, 68 votes? They don't even need that many because of the rhinos that would join with them. But what happens? Their plan is to impeach Donald Trump and JD Vance at the same time. And for what? These folks don't commit crimes, but what I've heard, and I don't know whether this is where would go, but you don't need to have an actual crime. It's a political decision. It's not an actual trial on the crime. And so if they impeach and then remove both Donald Trump and JD Vance, then the Speaker of the House becomes the President of the United States, and at that
Oh
time,
my God.
that would be
Hakeem
Joaquin
Jeffries.
Jeffries.
I mean, they are already completely out of their minds. And in what they're doing now, holding up, the pay for TSA agents and Secret Service and everybody else. So, as you said, we can't put it past them that they wouldn't do something like this. The only way that they
No, they
can
would
win
easily do.
elections. Oh,
They,
go
they,
on.
they did it to us in 2020, with the idea of opening the borders, and people
Hmm.
didn't go crazy and say that they shouldn't have had any votes at all. But it didn't matter. The fix was in 2020, and we
Well,
know
and
this. We know that the phone
yep.
chips in Antrim County actually communicated with a central source of computers, and that's what would have caused the flipping of the vote there, because that was a nice, easy way to get those. But the fact is that this is happening now. So
Hmm.
how do we know that they're happening, and what's the method? And because if it's happening now, then we better get into this. We better start investigating what happened in the Texas primaries, and we better take a look at what's happened in Arkansas and North Carolina as well, because the races that they're in, the one race that I can tell you about in Texas was in Bear County. Now it's spelled Bexar, so but don't ask me. It's pronounced Bear,
Okay.
and I think that's San Antonio, but in any event, there's a fellow there, Weston Martinez, who was running for Congress. That he was trying to get the Republican uh, the the Republican nomination. And at the end of the first day, he requested and received a list of the people who had voted, because those are available.
Hmm.
Okay, I got to go back a step because I need to explain something else. I'm sorry if I'm a little disjointed here, but there's a
Oh,
lot
that's
of
okay.
moving parts. The voter rolls. There's a fellow named Andrew Paquette. He and Jerome Corsi worked together on these things, but it was
Hmm.
Paquette that's the one that discovered that there were what he was calling clones. We didn't like that name, so we call them we call them modified duplicates. And what there can be, okay, so let's just say in my county where I vote, there should only be one Peter Ticktin, but there might be two, there might be four, there might be eight, 7. It doesn't make any difference how many. But the other ones are duplicates. So it would have exactly, excuse me.
God bless you.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
It would have exactly my social security number. It has exactly my driver's license number. It has my phone number. It has my address where I live. Those are exactly duplicated. The birth dates are sometimes changed a little bit, and the name actually gets changed a little bit. Sometimes my middle name, instead of being the full middle name, will just be an initial. But the one thing that always changes is the voter identification number. And that otherwise it would just be a duplicate. But with a different voter identification number, not only can I vote, but my modified duplicate can vote. And I mean, they can all vote. And so these things do show up. And Andrew Paquette was able to find, using an algorithm, he was able to find where they are. He was able to figure out the algorithm. And once you apply the algorithm, you find all these duplicates. He estimates that in New York State, there's as many as 2 million of these. In Florida, there could be as many as 1 million. So it's not as though these are small numbers of potential fake voters. It's as big as they need to be able to completely turn any election pretty well. I mean, unless it's just a massive number of people just from one side. So when we talk about too big to rig, we're really talking about the ballot stuffing. We're talking about the other ways of cheating. The way of, but once the computers are involved, they're overwhelming. The only reason that Donald Trump is the president right now is he had enough votes that he made it too big to rig for the ballot stuffing. But there were certain people actually who were part of the government, but there were certain people who were able to neutralize the computers in 2024. The data center that was attacked was in Belgrade, Serbia, and that was basically destroyed 3 days before the election in 2024. So it would have been like November 2nd that they got into the computer database, and they caused it to overheat, literally melting the chips, which caused a complete disaster for them. Nobody knew whether it worked or not until the night of the election.
Well,
which was
thank
kind of a scary
goodness. Thank goodness for that, because otherwise the United States would be a communist country at this point. I mean,
Yes,
with everything
yes,
that
yes.
you're trying to do. Well, Peter, we're
Kamala Harris
running.
would be the president, and they'd be taking us away already by the truckloads. Literally by now.
Well, Peter, we're gonna need to have you come back on again in a few weeks to update us on additional information, because we're running short on time now. But I want to thank you so much for coming on.
Okay.
You have your book,
All right.
What Makes Trump
Yes,
Tick.
What Makes Trump Tick.
It's definitely a good read. But Peter, thank you so much, and we'll have you back on next month if that's okay with you.
I'd love to.
Thank you so much. Well,
thanks.
We're gonna go to a quick break, and we'll be right back.
At Fight Voter Fraud, we work to ensure every legal vote is counted, and no unlawful vote ever diminishes the voice of we the people. We're fighting for you in courtrooms and communities nationwide to protect transparency, accountability, and fairness in every election. Our mission is simple: one vote for one legal voter. This is our country. This is our vote. Let's protect it together. together.
Hi, I'm Linda Sinkowitz. I'm the founder and CEO of Fight Voter Fraud. I'm very excited to announce Operation Verify Voters 2026. This is where everyone can get involved. Every single person can get involved in helping make sure we have transparent and clean elections. The most important thing is cleaning the voter rolls. Who knows better than you on your street? You know when people have sold their homes. You know when people moved. You know when other people have passed away. Those are people we need to make sure are no longer on the voter rolls. And it's really easy to do. We can help you. What we're going to be doing is setting up training sessions, which you sign up for, and we will walk you through the process. It's simple, it's easy, and everyone can get involved. So you're going to go to fightvoterfraud.org or scan the QR code, and it'll bring you right to our Operation Verify Voters 2026. And our goal is to get every single state involved in this initiative. Everyone can make a difference. Thank you. Hi, and welcome back to Sinkowitz. I'm Linda Sinkowitz, again, the founder and CEO of Fight Voter Fraud. I want to thank everybody for listening to our guest, Attorney Peter Ticktin. He has got so much information that the public needs to know. And we'll talk more about it later in my final thoughts. So first, we're going to go on to Connecticut. Connecticut is where I'm from. Connecticut is, oh my goodness. Okay. This is from governing on March 6, 2026. Connecticut moves to strengthen voter privacy in sweeping election bill. How can you have a lie in your headline? But they do. It is absolutely ridiculous on what the Democrats have done here in Connecticut. I mean, first of all, they're not even sending in our voter rolls to DOJ because they're corrupt. They're hiding a bunch of stuff. But with this bill that the Democrats, who have a supermajority here in Connecticut, which is highly questionable as to whether they should even be even with the people in the House and Senate. But what they've done is, oh my goodness, I just have to go right to this. The legislation prohibits the use of voter registration information the Secretary of State's office and local registrar of voters collect and maintain for personal, private, or commercial purposes. That includes information for advertising, marketing, selling, or soliciting products or services. Among other things, the protected personal information includes the names. Oh, my goodness, your name, addresses, birth dates, and certain identification numbers of voters. I mean, this is so hard to read, but the big thing I got to tell you is it's prohibiting any reproduction of the voter rolls. I can see if it's selling it to, credit card companies and other stuff. But they're putting on a $2,000 fine if anybody has anything to do with the voter rolls. It also prohibits the use of protected information to harass any voter or voter's household. I don't understand that part. But anyway, violations would be considered second-degree harassment. The misdemeanor offense is punishable up to 90 days in jail and a fine up to $500. But get this. In addition, a court may order any person convicted of this crime to be examined by one or more psychiatrists. Are you kidding me? The ones that need, maybe psychiatrists are on the Democrats' minds here in Connecticut, because most of the ones in our legislature are probably seeing somebody. They have serious issues. Believe it or not, they pushed it through, and now it is waiting for King Lamont here in Connecticut for his signature. we're not even going to go into the rest of this stuff with him being caught with his hand in the cookie jar. But anyway, the story's really long. And I know I pulled it because when I saw it, it's here in Connecticut, but there is nothing that happens in the state of Connecticut up in Hartford right now that is surprising. They're out of their minds. I mean, they should be now passing a law to let all the illegals vote. Oh, wait a minute. We have a ton of them on our voter rolls already, and they let them vote. Attorney General Tong will go to bat for them here in Connecticut. I think I went off on my little final thoughts there for a moment. So thank you for indulging me with that. But again, Connecticut is near and dear to my heart because I live here. I've grown up here. My family is from here. And that's how I actually started Fight Voter Fraud. And it's very, very, very difficult to get anything cleaned up or have anyone in elections or the Secretary of State's office to actually follow state law, let alone federal law. There you go. Now we're going to go on to a state that I wish we could emulate. This is Idaho. This is from NCW Life Channel from March 9th. Idaho Senate committee advances bill allowing potential jurors to serve as poll workers instead. What a brilliant idea. People doing their civic duty. So potential jurors may have the option to instead work the election polls under a bill advancing in the Idaho legislature. The Senate State Affairs Committee on Monday approved House Bill 560, which would allow county clerks to request from the jury commission that the prospective jurors be given the choice to be excused from jury duty to serve as poll workers. Those who accept and volunteer as poll workers in an upcoming election would be excused from jury service for the next 2 years. The bill now goes to the Senate floor for consideration. It passed the House 68-0, with 2 members absent, and if approved by the Senate, would go to the governor for signature or veto. So the Senate bill was sponsored by Senator Phil Hart. He's a Republican from Kellogg. Yay! What a good one. We like good ones. Michigan. Michigan just cannot help keep doing things that are against the law. So this is from Lizette News from March 9th. Michigan Democrats caught putting dead people back on the voter rolls after they were removed. Of course they did, because that's what they've been doing. And it's not just Michigan, it's in a number of states. So Michigan State Representative Rachel Smith discussed concerns about voter registration system errors during a legislative exchange, citing her previous experience as a township clerk and describing instances where deceased individuals appeared on voter rolls. Smith's remarks came during a discussion about the election's safeguards and potential inaccuracies in voter registration systems. During the exchange, a witness acknowledged that errors can occur within complex administrative systems while emphasizing that safeguards exist to address them. So it kind of goes on with all this stuff. And like I said, they're putting them back on the voter rolls again. And believe me, they're not just putting them back on to have their name on the list. What they're doing is putting them back on. So as Attorney Peter Ticktin said, somebody else can vote for them. And we know that everywhere. North Carolina. This is our next story. It's from ABC News 12 on March 9th. Canadian national pleads guilty to illegal voting in North Carolina. Yes, we have a state that is actually enforcing the law. A Canadian national has pled guilty to 2 federal charges that are falsely claiming U.S. citizenship in order to vote in North Carolina elections in 2022 and 2024. According to court documents, Dennis Bouchard, 70, certified on voter registration applications he was a U.S. citizen, despite never obtaining citizenship. Though he had lived in the U.S. since the 1960s, federal law requires citizenship to register and vote. Common sense right there. U.S. Attorney W. Ellis Boyle said the case demonstrates that non-citizens who attempt to vote illegally will be prosecuted, and emphasizing that every single vote counts. FBI Special Agent in Charge Reed Davis called election security a top priority and said the Bureau will investigate anyone who tries to undermine the democratic process. It kind of goes on from there. He's facing up to 5 years in prison for each count. So, well, there's one out of hundreds of thousands, but it's a step in the right direction. So we at least know that North Carolina, and since it was a federal election, thank you to the FBI in North Carolina. Thank you. Wisconsin. The CAP news from March 6th. Madison and Dane counties upgrade ballot printing process after controversy. The city of Madison and Dane County have upgraded their ballot printing process, which election officials say will help them print ballots and poll books faster ahead of the upcoming April 7th election. The county is contracted with WPS Data Logistics, a Madison-based data processing and printing company, to print ballots for all of Dane County and the city of Madison's poll books, which election workers use to verify and track registered voters. The change comes after the city discovered 193 absentee ballots were left uncounted in the November 2024 election. The untallied votes would not have changed the outcome of any race or referendum on the ballot, but after the error was discovered, the Wisconsin Election Commission ordered the city to make operational changes. A group of voters is suing the city over the uncounted ballots, seeking monetary damages. Oh, it kind of goes on from there. It's another one of those long stories. But yeah, they got a problem and they're working on fixing it. Yay. But remember, it's Wisconsin. Election term. Our election term of the week is from the glossary of election technology at the US EAC, and this was checked on March 10th, 2026. Swing voter. A person who is not a firm supporter of any political party and whose vote in an election is difficult to predict. So that's what the swing voter is. Our trivia question of the week. Who was Chief Justice of the Supreme Court at the time of the controversial Supreme Court decision Bush versus Gore was handed down on December 12th, 2000? Remember those hanging chads? Okay, we're going to go to a break and we'll give you the answer when we come back. Thank you.
We need your help to ensure one vote for one legal voter. Join Fight Voter Fraud. Request training, get the potential double-registered, double voter data for your town, and donate to support the fight. Visit fightvoterfraud.org, because election integrity starts with you.
Hi, I'm Linda Sinkowitz. I'm the founder and CEO of Fight Voter Fraud. We are launching Operation Verify Voters 2026, and we want to get everyone involved in every single state because you can make a difference. We will be able to train you. It doesn't take that long for the training. It's very, very simple because you know the people on your street, in your neighborhood who have moved or died. We want to make sure that the voter rolls are clean. We're going to show you how to do it. Go to our website, fightvoterfraud.org, or scan the QR code and we'll show you how. Thank you. Hi, and welcome back to Sinkowitz. Again, I'm Linda Sinkowitz, the founder and CEO of Fight Voter Fraud. Thank you so much for watching us on OBBM Network TV, Rumble, YouTube, Spotify, and a whole bunch of other social platforms. Thank you. Now we're going back to our trivia question. Our trivia question of the week was, or is, who was Chief Justice of the Supreme Court at the time of the controversial Supreme Court decision Bush versus Gore was handed down on December 12th of 2000? And the answer is William Rehnquist. So now we're going to go on to national news. Our national news is from Fox News on March 6th. And I want to thank Jennifer. She was the first one who sent me this story. So thank you, Jennifer. Illegal immigrant charged with voting in Pennsylvania in 5 presidential elections. Mahadi Sacco was ordered removed from the U.S. in 2000, but remained under ICE supervision while casting ballots, prosecutors allege. An illegal immigrant from Marawantiana, is that okay? I don't know what that is, but it's the name of where he was charged with fraudulent voting after allegedly casting ballots in Pennsylvania in the last 5 presidential elections, prosecutors said. Mahadi Sacco, a 50-year-old Philadelphia resident who was ordered to be deported from the U.S. in 2000, quote, allegedly unlawfully voted in person in the 2024 general election for federal office and, quote, falsely represented that he was a U.S. citizen in order to vote and register to vote, according to the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania. An FBI special agent investigating the case said Pennsylvania state voter records showed Sacco also voted in the following federal elections: the 2008 general election, the 2012 general election, the 2016 primary, and the general election in 2016, the 2020 primary election, and the 2020 general election. And probably because he's not going to be charged with all of them is because the statute of limitations is up. But he's in pretty deep doo-doo, I would say. I mean, first of all, he's going to get a free ride out of the country after he serves his time. And they say this isn't happening. I know we see 1 or 2 here or there. Thousands, tens of thousands. Our next show will talk about stuff that the DOJ just turned up on that as well. In fact, we'll talk about that next week. Going now to vote notes. This is from Vote Beat on March 11th. We know which way this is leaning. Like I said, I try my best to have different sides and different stories. But I'll tell you, this Vote Beat. Trump administration subpoenas 2020 records from Maricopa County amid push to investigate election. The FBI subpoenaed the Arizona Senate for records related to controversial audit of election results in the state's most populous county. The documents could include ballot images. The Federal Bureau of Investigation recently subpoenaed records from Arizona Senate related to the exhaustively reviewed 2020 election in Maricopa County. It's exhaustively reviewed because it's corrupt. Oh my goodness. Marking another move by President Donald Trump's administration to relitigate an election that he lost. If you want to read the rest of it, the link is on our website. I'm not reading the rest because even just reading that little bit, they lie. That's all they do is lie. Now we're going on to international news. International news, again, this is from our Council of Foreign Relations from December 9th of 2025. This one concerns Brazil's presidential election in October, and that's going to be on October 4th of 2026. Everything is on the table when Brazilians head to the polls this coming fall. The presidency, vice presidency, both houses of the National Congress, and every state governorship and assembly. Ooh, this really is a big election for them. The top concerns for voters are likely to be slowing economic growth, inflation, and crime. Brazil's economy may be entering a recession, and inflation is just under 5%. Donald Trump's 50% tariffs means additional economic headwinds. Brazil's homicide rate remains one of the highest in the world. And police raid on 2 neighborhoods in Rio de Janeiro last month left 132 people dead without breaking the power of criminal gangs. Yeah, they got a lot of criminal gangs down there. Incumbent President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, ooh, say that 3 times fast, said in 2022 that he would not seek a 4th term. I'm sure a lot of the Brazilians are going, yay, thank you. If you suck that long and have like the worst homicide rate in the world, and you've got all these gangs, you probably shouldn't be running again to run the country. He had a change of heart, however, and in October he declared his candidacy, saying, quote, "I'm turning 80, but you can be sure I have the same energy I had when I was 30." Did I just read that? Oh my God. All right. So former President Jair Bolsonaro has begun serving a 27-year sentence for fomenting a coup after losing to Lula 4 years ago and is barred from running. I guess that would be kind of hard if you're serving a 27-year prison sentence, but I'm sure it's because he was probably trying to do the right thing in that corrupt government. Did I say that? Oops. Okay. Okay, so Bolsonaro's son Eduardo and Tarcísio de Freitas, the governor of Brazil's most populous state, are likely competitors to carry the banner for Brazil's right. They face considerable competition. However, the younger Bolsonaro also faces charges that he interfered in his father's criminal case. Of course they're going to do that. Early polls have Lula ahead, but his edge may reflect a temporary rally around the flag effect as a result of the recent clashes with Trump. Wow. So that's our international news. So we have come to that part of the show, which apparently I've sort of interjected my final thoughts throughout this entire program this week. So most of you know where I'm coming from with my statements here. Now, our guest this week was Attorney Peter Ticktin. Now, Attorney Ticktin is brilliant, is absolutely brilliant, and he is one of the few attorneys across the country that actually understand all the stuff that's been going on with the elections. Now, as we are starting to see, at least on right-leaning media, because the left-leaning media won't talk about all the stuff that's been uncovered to actually prove everything that we've talked about from the 2020 election, and not just the 2020 election. It's just like every single election for the last couple of decades. There's corruption. There is corruption within the machines. There's corruption within the election officials themselves. There's corruption within the states. Look how hard the the blue-leaning states are fighting to not give the information, even on the voter rolls, over to the Department of Justice. Look at the absolutely asinine laws in the blue states that are being pushed forward so nobody can see what's going on. What we should have is transparency with our elections. And because the system is absolutely broken, why wouldn't every single American want to make sure their own vote counted? And we heard this past week, Schumer going, oh my God, we can't have ICE at the polling locations. Tens of millions of voters won't be able to vote. So he's already admitting that could be 10 million illegals on the voter rolls. They're not supposed to vote in our elections anyway. But the whole purpose of opening up our country to absolutely every slimeball and terrorist group in the world was done by the Democrats under Biden to get as many people into this country, because you can only keep this whole facade going. I mean, when you have, saying that you've got 7 million voters on a voter roll in a state, and there's only 5 million that are over the age of 18 in the state, there's a problem. So what better than to have bodies that are not U.S. citizens that falsely register? Well, the whole thing. They've been doing this for years. So if you think it's not a problem, you are so wrong. Absolutely wrong. These 2026 midterms are critical to our country and moving forward so that we will still have our republic. We won't if we let them continue doing what they do. So I hope the president signs the executive order to make sure that the paper ballots are all hand counted in public. We can't trust any of the machines. We can't trust the poll books. We can't trust the voter rolls themselves. I mean, that's what my organization does, is we look at all the ones that shouldn't be on there. I think I mentioned a few shows ago, we ran the list of people with the same first name, last name, middle name, and date of birth that have died across the country. With all those things matching, 550,000 plus. Those are more votes that are up for grabs. And as Attorney Peter Ticktin mentioned about Texas, heck yeah, we told you about this in our last show. They were manipulating the votes as they were coming in the system. It could be seen live on what they were doing. There's a whole bunch of different ways that they're doing it. So what can we do? Hope is not lost. What we are going to do is we are going to get people motivated across the country. Again, our Operation Verify Voters 2026, very simple. Check your street. You know who moved. You know who died. Contact your election officials. If you have any issues, contact us. And what's really simple is it's only about a 15-minute WebEx of training that we do. You can go to our website and sign up. Take 15 minutes out of your time, half hour at most, because Tim likes to answer questions instead of kicking everybody off that comes on for the training. But you can make a difference. You can make a difference. And really push to make sure everyone you know goes to the polls and is voting. This is critical. Yeah, we're still going to have some issues until we get to the November election, like here with the primary here in Connecticut. There's definitely going to be some issues, but we can make a difference. You have to understand why we need the Save America Act, why it is critical. Why do you think the Democrats are screaming and kicking and no, it'd be horrible. You know, all the women that got remarried, wouldn't be able to vote. That is BS. Absolute 100% BS. Anyone who is a U.S. citizen over the age of 18 and is an eligible voter within their town, county, or state is allowed to vote. So stop listening to the far left with all their whining and complaining. Take a look at what's going on. They don't care about you. And I am talking about down in D.C. They do not care. We are in a limited, very limited war that we are ending, not one that we created, one that we are ending. And the DHS funding for TSA, for Secret Service, and our other national security, they're not getting their paychecks at one of the most critical times in our country. With what we've got, all the sleeper cells, thank you, Biden, for letting them in. They don't care about you. You really need to understand that. The Democrats don't care. If you can stomach it, listen to Blumenthal when he talks. Listen to Crazy Murphy when he talks. Yeah, we're credited with two of the craziest ones down in DC, lucky Connecticut. So anyway, not that I have any personal opinions. I'm going to leave you with that. We can save our country. We can do it. So I want to thank everyone for watching us on OBBM Network TV, Rumble, YouTube. I'm Linda, and I'll see you next week.